I was trying to figure out whether to do like Zoinks or Jinkies or a Holy Something Batman or just try and do the Scooby voice, but the heck with it. Scooby-Doo and Batman Brave and the Bold. This one isn't one that I had planned on seeing, but it was one that I actually did to be on a podcast panel over on the Fire and Water Podcast Network. So since I saw it, let's do an animation junkie on it. So this was a little bit interesting to me. To sort of explain where I'm coming at this from, while I do enjoy, the lighter animated Batman stuff, I really like Batman Return of the Caped Crusaders. I like Batman versus Two-Face. I never really got into Batman Brave and the Bold. I've only seen one episode, and I did enjoy that episode. It just didn't hook me enough for me to be like, yeah, I need to set aside time to get into this. And so, I didn't really see it all that much. I liked what I saw and I dug the vibe of it, but that means I'm actually way more familiar with the modern incarnations of Scooby-Doo than I am with this particular incarnation of Batman. Now, I don't think this is intended to be a specific Scooby-Doo continuity. I know it's the voice cast from like Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, which my daughter was into for a little while. So I'm fairly familiar with, and they borrowed that visual aesthetic too. So I'm fairly familiar with this voice cast. They're very good at it. Especially Frank Welker as Fred. They still have the original. My God, that man's amazing. But anyway, so they've got that. We've got Diedrich Bader as Batman. We've got all these characters from Brave and the Bold showing up. It is much more a Batman story with Scooby-Doo inserted into it and some Scooby-Doo elements added in than it is the other way around. And that's always kind of the question with these sorts of team-up movies, is whose story is it going to feel more like? Because it's really hard to just get a 50-50 balance, and more often than not, it wouldn't work if you did that. So it's a question of who feels like they're the guest in the other one's story. And ultimately, this feels like a Batman story with the Scooby-Doo folks guesting. But that's just in terms of the plot structure. In terms of the general vibe and the way the characters bounce off each other, it's pretty seamless, all things considered. Nobody feels out of place, and I think that's why this specific incarnation of Batman works really well if you're going to do a Scooby-Doo team-up. Although I do believe that there was a sort of a Batman Scooby-Doo thing before, I think based on the Adam West version. I don't know, I haven't seen that. I'm not going to get too much into spoilers on this, so you don't have to worry about that. But this was fun. This is what I would want out of something called Scooby-Doo and Batman Brave and the Bold. You hear that title and you think, this is going to be ridiculous. And yeah, it's ridiculous, but it's fun ridiculous. And it gets the humor right. And like I said, the humor of Batman Brave and the Bold and the humor of Scooby-Doo, or at least the modern incarnations of Scooby-Doo, they complement each other pretty well. There's a couple of nitpicks that I have. While there are some nuances to the tail end of the mystery that I wouldn't have called, like one of the characters that ends up being involved in it, I called crazy early, and like the fact that it takes the other characters so long to catch on to that was a little bit. Boy, I hope they come up with a solution that isn't the obvious one, because otherwise I figured it out forever ago and it ended up being the obvious thing. Again, there was a little bit more going on with the mystery than just that. And I can't really explain that without getting into spoilers. There's also a little bit of an added, it's not quite an action beat, but it does this thing where it's like it feels finished. It feels like it wrapped up. It had a action scene. The mystery is solved. We've had our mask peel, that you have to have at the end of a Scooby-Doo. We've had the recap of how everything happened. And then sort of it sets off with a new beat at the end of it. Not like a finishing note, like now they have to deal with this. And it's a little bit odd because you're winding down at that point. And Batman Return of the Caped Crusaders did something similar. And I'm going to stick with my theory that I had there, and I don't know if this is true, but it feels like they wrote out the story, it came to a natural conclusion, somebody checked their watch and went, oh crap, we're 8 minutes short. And then tacked on this other thing and padded out the credits so that they could get the hour 15 runtime that is apparently mandated for all the DC-related direct-to-DVD movies. But that's really kind of my only complaint. And I mean, it's still on par with most Scooby-Doo-ish mysteries, I suppose. I don't know. I don't know if I can safely say I expected them to up their game, because I'm not sure I did. it just seemed like a little too obvious. Like I should, even if I had figured it out before the end, I should have had to have, put more than just 2 and 2 together. I should have had to put 2 and 2 and 2 together to get 6, but I only had to do that to that, duh. But I think more than anything, does anyone really come to Scooby-Doo for the mysteries? I'm not sure. I mean, ostensibly, I suppose so. But I mean, it's about the vibe. It's about the characters. It's about the fun. And there is a lot of fun. And there's some very funny moments. A lot of little one-off jokes, even from characters just briefly appearing. Harley Quinn has a line that I absolutely loved. There's some great little sort of, not quite fourth wall breaks, but just like, wait a minute, how does this even work moments? There's a wonderful joke where they're in the mystery van and Scooby's driving and Batman says, Scooby, turn left, and Scooby turns right, and Batman just goes, he doesn't know directions, does he? And Daphne looks at him and goes, he's a dog, duh. Like, nobody's questioning the fact that dogs are driving the car, but you were expecting him to know his right from his left? What's wrong with you? And it was just the delivery of that. It was awesome. And there's moments like that sprinkled throughout. I did laugh out loud watching this movie, which I would say mission accomplished on that. I suppose the only other nitpick that I'd have at this, aside from the stuff I'd already mentioned, is Scooby himself. I don't remember noticing this, with the episodes of Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated that I saw, so I don't know if this is something that's prevalent in more recent stuff than that, because even that show's like 5-8 years old, something like that. But Scooby's voice, they seem to have largely dropped the R speech impediment, where he sticks the letter R at the front of all of his words. Now he, maybe will do it for the first word of a sentence, but then speak the sentence normally, which was weird and threw me off. And he also doesn't do much. Although in hindsight, did Scooby ever really actually do much? Because he was always just kind of tied to Shaggy's hip. So the two of them were basically a duo. He didn't really do a heck of a lot on his own. But he feels even more incidental here than usual. Or maybe I'm just noticing it more because by removing the weird speech impediment, you're like, well, that was kind of his one thing. So if you're not doing that full on, why is he here? And maybe that's a really weird thing to be asking. What is the point of Scooby-Doo, when you could easily apply that to the entirety of the Scooby-Doo franchise? But I don't know. It bugged me in this one for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. But you know what? I had a lot of fun with this. It was enjoyable. It was fast-paced. It was funny. It has I'd say 2 full-on action beats, and then one kind of prologue one and the sort of extra one at the end. The one that's basically in the middle, the action beat that happens at Arkham, that's a ton of fun. That's really nice. The one that happens later is fine, but that was kind of the highlight for me as far as the slapstick action thing kind of went. But like I said, there's good jokes besides that. I had a lot of fun with this. If you've got an hour and 15 minutes and you want to have a couple laughs, I would say it's worth your time. It's good for that. So those are my thoughts on Scooby-Doo and Batman the Brave and the Bold. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Don't forget to do all that stuff. The likes, the subscribes. I got a Patreon if you feel generous. And until next time, this council is adjourned.